Thanks for joining us. I'm Savannah Levins.
And I'm Rebecca Lindstrom. Welcome to The Reveal, a program looking into issues happening in our community to give greater perspective, question authority, and uncover solutions.
For the next half hour, we are exploring stories that impact you. A lawsuit filed in Athens, Clark County accuses the district attorney of being unable and unwilling to do her job. 11
Alive was first to report this 20-page filing, which claims lack of staff and the DA's inability to prosecute may be hurting the county. For months, I investigated what is going on in the office, and I sat down exclusively with the DA and the attorney who filed the suit. The Western Judicial Circuit is a mess, and you don't have to take my word for it. In a series of open records, 11 Alive Investigates found frustration from police.
I'm writing this email to express my absolute disgust with the handling of this case.
The judges,
the state's lack of preparation and or failure to follow proper procedures.
Victims,
I honestly had no trust in the DA's office to represent my family in a trial.
The public,
she needs to resign immediately or her constituents will recall her.
And now attorney Kevin Epps, who has filed a lawsuit accusing District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez of failing to do her job. I have heard people call it the Western Circuit circus. Is that fair?
We are a circus, and it must be stopped.
Gonzalez admits things are less than ideal. Her office is budgeted for 17 prosecutors, but when we sat down to talk, she had 5. As DA, Gonzalez has struggled to keep attorneys, creating a massive workload for those left behind.
My caseload was 870 cases. Yes.
That's impossible.
It is impossible. It is unsustainable.
Our investigation found it's impacting serious cases. Last month, Gonzalez asked the judge for more time to prepare for a murder trial set to begin about a week later. She said a key witness wasn't available, and she was waiting on GBI test results. In truth, she never subpoenaed the witness, and the test results arrived weeks earlier.
If it's deception, it's wrong. If it's not being prepared, it's wrong. Either one of them is unacceptable in any way. And it rose to the level that a judge said, I'm going to put it in an order that the citizens of Athens, Clark County can read.
That's a murder trial. Whose responsibility is that?
So it is my responsibility. I rely on other people for information as well, because obviously I don't have time to check every single thing.
Gonzalez is an attorney, but with no background in criminal law. As DA, she planned to focus on policy, but with so few prosecutors, she's had no choice but to handle cases herself. You prosecuted your first criminal case when?
In January
of this
year.
The outcome of cases don't just impact one county. Willie Tremaine Evans was found not guilty of murder in Athens. Now he's in a Barrow County jail, accused of killing a teenager.
I'm concerned.
That's why Athens resident and business owner Gerard Miller filed what's called a writ of mandamus. He voted for Deborah Gonzalez. Still, when prosecutors lost their case against a driver in a fatal hit and run of a student, Miller couldn't take it anymore.
So that left a gaping hole of justice.
While the lawsuit bears Miller's name, his attorney, Kevin Epps, says the document really represents every citizen concerned about what's happening in the DA's office. What exactly is a writ of mandamus?
You're asking a judge to tell a public official to do their job.
Gonzalez says she can't do her job until the county gives her more money. She says attorneys keep leaving for higher paying jobs in other parts of the state.
I think what we had was a perfect storm. People left because they were offered more money. The ones who stayed were left with higher caseloads that led to stress.
Clark County commissioners approved a study to see if money is really the issue, but that will take weeks, if not months. Epps is convinced there is more to this problem.
I'm looking at the evidence of how she indicts, how she dismisses, how she chooses to prosecute.
He believes this lawsuit will prove what police, judges, and victims are saying.
And it is not good.
In a statement, the DA says this attack on my office is part of a broader politically motivated campaign to undermine prosecutors elected to pursue smart justice.
Wow, great story there. Meanwhile, the lawsuit will be heard by a senior judge in the state Superior Court.
Over in Douglas County, the fire chief is now on leave after an 11 Alive investigation uncovered faults in the department's hiring practices.
11 Alive investigator Kristen Crowley reported the department hired a firefighter with several run-ins with the law. We found Dimitri Williams is now a fugitive out of Alabama, and Georgia taxpayers are funding his salary.
It was May of 2021 when Dimitri Williams got this letter saying he was hired as a Douglas County firefighter. Remember that date. It's important. The 39-year-old got the job despite the fact he was facing felony theft charges out of Huntsville, Alabama, from an arrest in 2019. We tried to speak with Fire Chief Roderick Jolivet. Is Chief Jolivet available? No one from the county would comment. But he told the Douglas County Sentinel that he didn't know about the charge, claiming it never showed up on a background check. Well, we did a little digging, and according to the GBI, the fire department's background check was done on March 18th, 2022, nearly a year after Williams was already working for the department. And that's not all. We found court records showing he was arrested and charged with burglary and theft out of Fulton County in 2004. Those charges were dismissed in exchange for $200 restitution and community service. The fire chief is quoted as saying in the Sentinel, it wouldn't have shown up on the background check because it happened more than 10 years ago. But according to the GBI, it says there's no time frame on background checks, and an arrest, even without a conviction, would still show up. We also filed open records requests for Williams' personnel file. He was written up twice in the span of a few months. He got a written reprimand for an altercation with an employee and probation for unwanted leering and inappropriate comments. His records say he's been on leave since November. Williams makes $46,000 a year, a salary taxpayers are still funding.
The GBI went back and found the fire department ran its initial background check on Williams on June 29th, 2021. That is a month after he was hired. They ran a second background check a year after he started the job.
Meanwhile, the county says it is conducting an investigation into the department's hiring process.
Right now, families are fighting for the state to put more money toward care for those who live with developmental disabilities.
Georgia's Senate must decide whether to fund more waiver services and pay increases for those working on the front lines.
We explore the cost both to taxpayers and the families involved.
No, I don't want a baby. Here, come here, Gabe. What are you trying to get her to put something on your phone for you?
Would you be okay backing up?
Come here, buddy. Come here, Mama. Come stand beside Mama.
What happens if you don't take it?
Here, shove it in your face until you do.
It's hard to carry a conversation with Gabe around. You can ignore movement and mumbling. But Gabe demands attention.
Have a charging cable. This is good. Come stand beside Mama.
Gabe was diagnosed with autism as a toddler. His mom, Erin, says the family had a routine to support his developmental disability, but they were not prepared when 5 years ago, a doctor diagnosed him with schizoaffective disorder.
It's like he just woke up and he was gone.
Gabe no longer has boundaries. It's one thing to keep handing someone stuffed animals and cars, but he has also become fixated with things like the stove. Erin says it is hard to get people to understand.
They're like, it can't be that bad. It can. It really can. It's like his impulse control is gone. I stopped at the gas station. He got out of the car and ran.
Georgia has what's called a service waiver to help families afford care for people like Gabe.
It'll pay for the day program. It will pay for nurses to come help take care of him. It should pay for behavioral health in the house. Supposedly it'll pay to fence in our yard because he's a runner.
But there's a cap on how many it can serve. Darcy Robb, the executive director of Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities, says there are 7,000 people on that wait list. People like Gabe.
The question they've been asked, is the person currently homeless? So I think that gives you a sense of how bad things need to be before a person gets a waiver.
Lawmakers are debating whether to raise that cap, but the current proposal would still only help about 5% of those people. But waivers won't mean much if there are no workers to do the job. Right now, the pay for these support services is on average $10.63 an hour. According to the job site Indeed, you can make more with an entry-level job at a grocery store, fast food chain, or movie theater.
That even the people who desperately want to do this work, they're coming back and saying, look, I love this work, but it's just not enough to sustain my life. Literally, they can't pay their bills.
A study on wages in Georgia led the state to recommend boosting pay for direct service providers by more than 40%. But a bump to $15 an hour would cost state taxpayers more than $90 million a year.
When we don't invest in this population, we get a lot of crisis and chaos.
That's when he was actually in the psych room.
Erin remembers the last time she tried to get help. She went to the emergency room.
I asked them what would happen if I signed over my rights to the state. And they said they'd get me for abandonment. I'd go to jail.
But she counters with her own question.
How is it not criminal for him just to be pushed away?
What did you break here?
The ER knew it didn't have what Gabe needed, so it did try to find him mental health care.
I mean, they literally said we tried every single place that we know of in the state of Georgia, Florida, surrounding states. They said we can't find anywhere.
And a big reason for that is he can't do things like bathe himself or cut his food. It goes back to having enough staff.
Do you feel trapped?
Oh, yes, of course.
Trapped because without treatment and in-home support, Erin had to quit her job. For a while, her husband lost his, and the other kids struggle with school. They worry each month how to make the mortgage. And for it all, Gabe is still not getting what he needs.
Well, what you see is him walking and talking, but what you don't see is him getting naked and kicking holes in the walls and running outdoors and screaming that there's aliens getting him. One day, last week, he cried all day, all day, like this uncontrollable.
And that is when Erin cries too.
I cry a lot, I do. And, you know, I try not to do it in front of my kids. You're gonna go to the bathroom and cry, so. But yeah, it's hard.
A heartbreaking and eye-opening story there. Up next on The Reveal, a social media post that changes an investigation 7 years after a 19-year-old went missing.
This is where the story is going to change.
Why the family says they haven't given up hope on finding Morgan.
Welcome back to The Reveal. A 19-year-old girl from Atlanta went missing in 2016. Now, new evidence could impact the investigation into Morgan Bauer's case.
This is quite the mystery. We discovered a discrepancy that could shift the timeline now of where Morgan went and when. I spoke with her mom, who says she recently found out Morgan last posted to social media after she was thought to have gone missing. It's a development that could change a lot in this case.
I just want to celebrate who Morgan is. This horrible thing that happened isn't her whole life. She's the most caring person. She would do anything for the people that she loves. She's so kind and so funny. I just miss her face so much.
Even as the years pass, Sherry Keenan says she'll never give up looking for her daughter.
People probably can't understand what it feels like to have days turn into weeks, into months, and into years. And you don't want to do your best, but feel like you're failing and not knowing how to help your child.
In February 2016, 19-year-old Morgan moved from her small South Dakota hometown to Atlanta, taking a job as a dancer in a Gainesville club.
She had to do what she had to do, and that doesn't mean any harm should come to anyone.
2 weeks later, Morgan disappeared.
On the 25th into that night, she was dancing at top of Gainesville. She left, and we know she left with some people. They stated they dropped her off at a Citgo gas station in Covington, Georgia.
But now,
this is where the story is going to change.
Morgan's Instagram is on private, but a friend recently sent Sherry a screenshot of Morgan's last post. Look at the date, the 26th, not the 25th.
This changes the entire timeline of events. It also changes the last person known to have seen Morgan. I contacted Morgan's detective. They hadn't heard any different dates other than the 25th either.
That could mean police have been looking in the wrong places based on an incorrect timeline.
It completely changes the narrative to the story. They're having to go back and relook at everything and vet all of the information that we now have and relook at the case.
The video seems to show Morgan in a park with a man. Atlanta police have declined our requests for interviews and have not revealed if they know who that person is or where this video was taken. But Sherry is hopeful this may turn up new leads.
And I don't want anything bad to happen to anyone else, but I forgive whoever did this. Just bring her back. Just tell me where she is so I can help her.
If this interview we're having gets back to Morgan or the people who know where she is, what would your message to them be?
I'm coming for you. I'm coming. I'm going to find you. She will always be my baby, and I will go to the end of earth if I have to.
And 7 years after Morgan's disappearance, the family held a vigil to remember her, and they say they are not giving up hope for finding her.
We'll be right back with more investigations on The Reveal. Welcome back to The Reveal. Some consumers are claiming their bank accounts are unexpectedly closed and their money just disappearing.
Very stressful. We investigate tech-based banking services that aren't actually banks, and we found what you can do to protect your money.
In the age of technology, tech-based banking apps have millions of fans.
Lowering or eliminating overdraft fees, the adoption of being able to get a paycheck 2 days early, that was one of the early draws of the financial technology companies.
But many customers like Eva Potter say those promises aren't being kept.
You're supposed to be able to get paid 2 days early.
And how often did that happen?
0 times.
Eva used Chime, a financial technology or fintech company. Chime's website repeatedly states they're not a bank and that the nearly 15 million accounts they manage are FDIC insured up to $250,000. But experts say fintech customers don't get the same federal protections they'd have with a normal bank.
Fintech providers ought to be following the same rules as banks, but they're not supervised in the same way.
Alex Horowitz works for the Pew Charitable Trust's Consumer Finance Project. He says they're clocking complaints from fintech customers who say their money has been delayed or even disappeared with little to no explanation.
There's certainly been more notice because of the complaints from consumers.
It's been really, really scary. Not knowing, like, are we gonna make our rent this month? Are we gonna afford our groceries this week? How are we gonna pay to keep our heat on? It's terrifying.
Carly Scorpio and Jimmy Carlson say they decided to cash out all of the $6,500 in their Chime account, but say the check was flagged as fraudulent.
Nobody could tell me how this happened, why it was flagged as fraudulent. All they could tell me every time was that the money's gone and that there's nothing that we can do.
The couple says they've had trouble getting in touch with anyone at Chime to resolve the issue.
Everything's designed, it feels like, to not help you on purpose because they're not regulated. It's like, we don't have to help you.
There have been 7,795 Better Business Bureau complaints filed against Chime in the last 3 years. More than half of the complaints coming from Georgia were from people unable to access their money or had their accounts closed unexpectedly. The zip codes filing the most complaints in Georgia: 30233 Griffin, 30038 Lithonia Stonecrest, and 30349 Atlanta South Fulton. Horowitz says fintech customers should report any issues to the federal government.
Because the bank regulators only cover banks, really the only federal regulator here is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They accept complaints from consumers when something goes wrong.
For many, it's been a hard lesson learned to read the fine print.
Neither one of us knew anything about fintech companies until all this happened.
Yeah, they have to be held to the same exact accountability that a big bank does, and that's the bottom line.
Oof. Now, a Chime spokesperson did tell me that they've launched investigations into the complaints of those customers we interviewed, saying that they do offer the same consumer protections that traditional banks do.
If you are impacted by this, you can file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We posted the link to that in our story on 11alive.com. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching our latest edition of our investigative show, The Reveal.
You can watch all of our latest investigations on our website, 11alive.com/investigates.